Hi friends, I'm Amy and this is A-Star Reads, and I'm going to attempt another 24-hour readathon for HRCYED. Let's hope it goes well. I did not succeed with the last one. I'm kind of hoping that I set myself up for success this time with my book choices. It's possible I'm not, and this is just another attempt. However, one of these books are on my current TBR anyways, so at least I'm getting that book accomplished. So for HRCYED, you have to read 3 books. Only one of them can be a graphic novel, and one of them has to be 300 pages long. So here's what I have decided. I am going to be focusing on The Bandit Queens by Parini Shroff because this is a book that I need to read for various reasons this month, and it's just over 300 pages. It's 335 pages, which I think is reasonable. I think that's totally reasonable. I'm looking at the writing, the font, and that looks like it's, not too dense. That looks pretty darn good. There's a lot of dialogue in here, so I'm hoping that that will help too. This was a gift from my friend Christine, so thank you, Christine. I'm really excited to get to this one. It's also part of my 45 before 45. Like, there's a lot of things that I need to focus on when it comes to this book. For my 45 before 45 books, there was a goal that I had to put out a vlog that included spoilers in it. And in this particular vlog, I wouldn't typically put spoilers, but because I'm doing this for 45 before 45, for this book alone, I will include spoilers, and I will just put this spoilers for when I do actually talk about spoilers, and I'll warn you ahead of time so you can click off or skip to the next section. I'm gonna be talking about spoilers because I just wanted to give my full experience of these 45 before 45 books before I review them. And that is the goal for this one. And I'll tell you more about what it's all about when I actually start reading it. The other physical book that I plan on reading is really small. It's really small. And this was a book that I got from my friend Margaret Pernard because she was doing a big unhaul and I was getting some of the books that she unhauled. And this is called Tea and Sympathetic Magic by Tansy Rayner Roberts. And it's teeny. It's like 60 something pages. And I'm guessing it's like a cozy fantasy about tea and sympathetic magic. I don't know what sympathetic magic is, but I'm gonna find out, and hopefully this will be a quick read. The writing looks a little denser than The Bandit Queens, but like I said, it's, well, how many pages is it? 66 pages. So chances are good that I will be able to get through this one and it won't be difficult. Now, finally, for my audiobook, because it is helpful to have an audiobook since I'm doing a 24-hour readathon, there will be times when I'm not reading, or possibly times when I'm not reading, and then I can be listening to the audiobook. And I'm gonna read a middle grade. I'm just finishing up Ghost by Jason Reynolds, which is from the Track series, and I'm loving it. And it's a very easy audiobook to listen to. So I decided that I'm gonna just continue on with that series at the moment and read the next book, which is Patina. I think it's called Patina, also by Jason Reynolds. And this is about a girl named Patina, or Patty. Her nickname is Patty. And she's one of the other people on the team with Ghost, our main character from the first book. So I'm really excited to listen to this one. I started listening to Ghost on 1.2 speed. Well, I started listening to it on 1 speed, and that was good. And then 1.2 speed was okay. Like, it didn't feel too fast, because sometimes it depends on the narrator, and I don't love listening to audiobooks fast. I think 1.2 speed is all right. And the audiobook for this is, oh, I forgot to look it up, but it's at least 5 hours. So 5.5 hours, 5 hours and something. And when I speed it up to 1.2, it'll be a little less than that. So hopefully I will have time to listen to my audiobook during this 24-hour period, and then be able to get The Bandit Queens, Tea and Sympathetic Magic, and then Patina by Jason Reynolds. Those are my 3 books that I'm planning on reading. What brought this up is that I'm participating in Neva's 24-hour readathon because she does sprints for 24 hours. Different channels host the sprints for 4-hour increments. And my time to do it is tomorrow morning from 8 to 12. And I was like, well, if I'm already going to be doing sprints from 8 to 12, participating in this 24-hour readathon of sprints with Neva and a group of other booktubers, I might as well do my actual 24-hour readathon that I need to do for HRCYED, and it'll help me get through a book for Spring Into Readathon because I'm just trying to finish that up. And this fulfills a TBR prompt. It also fulfills a TBR trail the quest prompt. So like this is doing heavy duty. It's doing a lot in this 24-hour period. And so I'm really, really excited to get to this finally. I've been wanting to read it for a very long time. I just have this strong feeling that I'm gonna love this book, and I hope that's true. And let's hope that I get to sleep, because I need to sleep. I'm also gonna be doing some pampering, some self-pampering, because for my Spring Into Readathon, which you can learn more about in my Sunday Sum Ups, I'll link the most recent one for Spring Into Readathon up here. I need to do a self-care day, and I don't have really a full day that I can do that for. Maybe necessary, you know, like I have other things I need to do. So I think that I will just spend time doing a lot of self-care while I'm also reading, relaxing from this week, because it's been a very busy week. I think that will feel really good. Really put me first right now, focus on relaxing, and I'll be reading. So what's better than that? What's more self-care than that, really? So I'm really excited. I'm getting ready to start soon. I think what I'm gonna do, because by the time I got home today, I would have had to start like right when I walked in the door. I wanted to do from 4 p.m. today to 4 p.m. tomorrow, because that's the time that the Reading when Eva sprints are going on, like that whole time period, but that's just not gonna work out because it took me a while to get home. So I think I'm gonna go from 4:30 to 4:30, because then tomorrow I have live show for Shorefall with Bookstara at 5. So that'll give me a half an hour break between when I finish this 24-hour readathon and then have to go on a live show for Shorefall. I think that's what I'm going to end up doing, and I think that's going to work out. Hopefully I'll get these books done before then, and then I can have more time to just relax and not stress. And fingers crossed I can finish these 3 books in a 24-hour period. I also need to finish Ghost by Jason Reynolds, because I still have like 20 minutes left of that. So I'm going to listen to that for the next 20 minutes before 4:30, and hopefully get that done before starting Patina. Otherwise I'll have to finish Ghost before I start Patina, the audiobook, because, you know, I don't want to like just start the second book in the series when I haven't actually finished the first book yet. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm just kidding. I'm actually going to start my readathon at 5 and go until 5 p.m. tomorrow, because I just finished Ghost by Jason Reynolds, and I want to give myself like the full 24 hours, not having to finish that audiobook and then, you know, start the other audiobook within that 24-hour period. So now all I have to worry about is listening to Patina in full. And so I feel really good about that. I'm starting in 10 minutes. I've got 10 minutes until my 24-hour readathon starts. Okay, so it's just an hour into the readathon, and I wanted to give you a bit of an update because, well, I'm not going to give an update every hour, but I, figured since it's the very beginning of the readathon, let's talk a little bit about what I've been doing. So I did eat dinner, and I made it very easy on myself this evening. I just had some frozen pizza, and while getting that ready and eating it, I listened to Patina by Jason Reynolds. Well, I started listening to it, and I was able to bump it up to 1.5 speed, which makes sense because middle grade books, I feel like the narrators of middle grade books tend to read a little slower typically because, the audience is children. And in the first book, Ghost, we are learning about this kid who joins a track team called the Defenders. And Patina, also known as Patty, is one of the other kids who is new to the team. And so they become friends really quickly. And Patty is adopted. She and her sister are adopted by their aunt or their uncle and aunt because their mother has really bad diabetes, and when she was pregnant with her second child, her little sister, Patty's little sister, their father passed away, like suddenly, overnight. And over the course of time, like a year later or something along those lines, Patty's mother was having a hard time managing the diabetes, and she ended up having both legs amputated. So she still plays a really important role in her kid's life, but for the sake of the children, they're getting taken care of mostly by their aunt and uncle, because it got to a point where Patty was doing a lot of the taking care of her mother and her sister, and her mom doesn't want that for her. She wants her to have a regular childhood. So we're learning about Patty's change in situation and how she's been handling that, because it's fairly new. She's going to a brand new school. Things aren't so great there. And the only thing that seems to be working really well for her is the track team. So that's where I'm at with that so far. The sun is really not helping with trying to film right now. So then I've also started Tea and Sympathetic Magic by Tansy Rayner Roberts. And I think this is a part of a series. At least it kind of sets it up to be part of a series. And we had the cast of characters to begin with. And I have read the first chapters. I've read 8 pages so far. We have our main character, Nemayasine, I think is her name. Nimi for short. And she is an eligible, well, slightly eligible woman. I say slightly because she's now 22 and she's been out for 5 seasons. That does not bode well when you're trying to find a husband. Well, I should say she's not trying to find a husband. Her mother's desperately trying to find a husband for her. And one of the things that makes this a lot different than just a regular high society situation is that they all have magic, but it's kind of unseemly to show your magic in public unless you're someone like a duke or something who can get away with it. But there are instances where you can show your magic. So we just learned about them playing croquet and the unofficial rules to the new croquet, where they get the opportunities to use their magic and have fun with croquet by like turning their ball into a hedgehog or things along those lines. At the beginning of this, they're at a garden party where her mom is trying to get her cousin, who is a duke, to marry her. So her mom just keeps trying really hard to get this duke to want to spend time with his cousin so that they can get married and she could be a duchess. She's just not having it. She's tired of the whole marriage market. She's bored out of her mind. She hasn't gotten married to this point and she's just sick of it all. She'd rather just be cozy at home reading her books. And she meets this girl named Miss Agnew, this young girl who is kind of interested in the Duke, or at least would like the prospects, because it's her first season out. And I think these two are going to come to an agreement to try and help Nemasine get her mom off her back about her cousin, and to help Miss Agnew in her first season. So we'll see what happens, and I'm curious to see how the magic's going to play into this, because so far it's just this little thing where they get to have fun with it while they're playing this game, but you don't really show your magic while you're at an event like this. The intention of this book seems to be to make fun of itself, or at least make fun of this situation, bring light to society instances like this, and so I'm having fun with it. At least the writing so far just seems lighthearted and fun. This does feel like a very easy read, and like there's not going to be a lot of weight to it, which is actually perfect for a 24-hour readathon, because then, I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to figure out what exactly is going on here, and I won't feel the pressure of really needing to, get a strong message from this, because I think it's just meant to be fun and light and playful. And that's what it is so far. Why did it take me to the last 10 minutes to figure out this was a Greek mythology retelling or a reimagining? I'm guessing more of a reimagining, because some things happened here that I was like, what in the name of incest? Sorry, but it was like, what is going on in this story? And it definitely then made sense when you think about it as a Greek mythology retelling or reimagining. And all the names of the characters in this are Greek mythology names. So Hecate and Juno, and all these different names, including, what is her name? Nemayasine. All of a sudden I'm like, oh, hello. And that makes the absurdness of what actually happens and the magic, this magic system, makes sense. I don't know how I feel about it, but I finished it. I really don't know if I would continue on with this. It was a nice quick read. That was really awesome. And it was kind of fun, but it was almost too silly, almost too goofy. And I guess there's definitely that component when it comes to Greek mythology where you're like, what are they doing? This isn't normal behavior at all. And you get that in this, but it seems a lot stranger when it's a more normal setting. I mean, it's not a normal setting because this is still historical fiction, but like these bizarre situations that we see in Greek mythology does feel a lot like weirder when it's in a setting that is more, I hate to say modern because it's not modern, but more modern than, the era of Greek gods. So, yeah, how strange. What an interesting read. And it was fun. Like, it was a nice little fun quick read. It's currently 9:10. There were a few things that I had to stop and do. I had to film the Suffer-a-thon April announcement. I haven't edited it yet. I didn't do anything special for it except act annoyed, which works for Suffer-a-thon. Hopefully it turns out fine once I get into editing it. But I did that, and I listened to a little bit more of Patina. A little bit, not much. And then I was watching and participating in some of the sprints. And then I just finished this. So I feel like I'm doing okay with my timing. It helps that I picked a nice short book. But I definitely will need to get to Bandit Queens if I want to be able to get that one done before 5 o'clock tomorrow. So I'm going to think about this one, think about my rating, come back to you with that later, and get started on Bandit Queens. I'm getting sleepy already, though. It's been a long week. It was a long week. It was a very long week. And I'm just feeling tired, like worn out tired. Okay, so it is 10:45, and I was in the house reading The Bandit Queens, and I was just getting so sleepy. Just absolutely falling asleep. Let's see, where am I on that so far? Not very far in it yet. 18 pages, right there. So I haven't given it a ton of time yet. So, it's not like should I be further along? I don't know. It's also getting used to a new writing style, which, whenever you start a new book, I feel like it's a little slower at the beginning because you're getting used to the characters and the writing style and all the new stuff. And then as you get into the book, it gets a little more like fluid. I'm going to tell you about it in the morning because I'm just tired tonight. So I have been listening to my audiobook, though. I've been laying here listening to the audiobook because that's something I've been able to keep my eyes open for long enough to stay awake a little bit longer. And I have 2 hours and 45 minutes of Patina left. So that's going pretty well. I just don't know how long I'm going to end up sleeping for, although I really need the sleep. I'll probably set my alarm for... Should I set it for 5 or 6? I have my reading sprints at 8, so I definitely have to be ready for the sprints at 8. And that'll go for 4 hours. I know we'll chat a bit, but hopefully I'll be able to get some real reading done during that time because it's during my 24-hour readathon. I need to make sure I get it done. Here's what I'll do. I'll set my alarm for 5, and if I find that I'm like, nope, need to sleep another hour, then I'll sleep for another hour. But I've got to be up by 6. Okay, good morning. I'm about to go on sprints, 4 hours of sprints for the 24-hour sprinting. Am I awake yet? I don't know. I did have to alter my 24-hour readathon in one way. And the way that I'm altering it is that I needed to take an hour to edit the Suffer-a-thon video. And what I did was I'm going to say that I paused this at 7 and that I'm going to pick it back up again at 8 because I wouldn't have edited that then, but I was pretty negligent about getting that done this week. I was going to get it done earlier and I didn't. And then I was like, oh, I need to do this 24-hour readathon also. And that was not wise considering I really needed to prioritize the Suffer-a-thon video. I'm not going to count that hour where I paused and edited that video. I may have to pause it again though, because that would mean that it would go till 6 p.m. but our live show for Bookstara goes from, well, at least an hour. So what I'm gonna do is I will pause my readathon again at 5, because that's when the Bookstara live show is going to start, and then I will continue for an hour after I finish the Bookstara live show. So that's my plan. I know that it's kind of weird me chunking it up, but I've got to be realistic, and I don't think that the Bookstara live show should be affected by it, because I was planning on finishing before the Bookstara live show, and this hour of Suffer-a-thon editing, I didn't plan on having that be a part of things, and it was really necessary. I had to get it done. So I'm gonna just say that that hour just didn't happen. It just didn't happen in the scheme of my 24-hour readathon. So where am I currently? I could not keep my eyes open long enough to read this much this morning, but I did listen to my audiobook quite a bit. I think I have like an hour and 40 something minutes left of that. 9 hours to get this completely done, and my hour and 40 minutes of my audiobook. That really doesn't bode well for me. Am I going to be able to succeed at this 24-hour readathon? Maybe not this time around. It's another situation where I probably shouldn't have planned anything when I wanted to actually do a 24-hour readathon.
And that was an interesting couple of weeks. Because I had to read them both. I was kind of on a time crunch for both. And I was just like, okay, we are in this book. We are in this book.
Okay, so I'm only 34 pages into it so far. It is currently 9:42. We've been chatting a lot on this, friends, unsurprising. But I do want to tell you what's been going on so far in this book. So we have our main character, Gita. And Gita is a social pariah because her husband disappeared a number of years back. And everybody within the community think that makes her this witch, like this type of witch that she couldn't technically be, because you have to be able, within the folklore, you have to have died in order to become this type of witch. But because rumors have been formed and people have made the assumption that since her husband disappeared, he never came back for his house, he never came back for anything, his own family can't find him, people believe that she killed him, and there was no evidence ever, so she can't obviously get in trouble for anything that they were never able to prove because there was no body. But they assume, and the rumors have spread, that she's the one that did it. But she is an outcast, and the only real connection she has to any people at this time are through these microloans, that women in these small communities can have these groups where they're given these microloans that help them with their own small businesses and whatnot. They're not allowed to take a microloan out on their own. They have to be in a group of women to do it. So because of this, Gita has to be in contact with one person she hates, Solani, is that her name? Solani, and other people who are either unreliable for various reasons or just hate her or don't like her, treat her badly. So she has to deal with that. Otherwise, she stays away from people completely. So one of the people within the group is named Farah. And at the very beginning of this, they're having a meeting. They're trying to get the money together for their payment for that week. And Farah never shows up. She doesn't bring the money. And the reality is it's because her husband is stealing the money from her because he's an alcoholic and he's giving the money to the local alcohol dealer guy. And this really does in some ways affect Gita because her husband was also an alcoholic. He was abusive and he had this relationship with this alcohol dealer as well, and it was a problem within their marriage, and that was before he disappeared. Well, Farah, she comes to Gita and she's got a black eye. Her husband's been beating her, stealing her money so that he can get more alcohol, and she wants Gita to help her kill her husband because they all believe that Gita actually did kill her own husband. And Gita's like, no, I'm not going to help you. That's your problem, not my problem. Gita gets kind of brought into everything, and her livelihood is being threatened by Farah's husband. And throughout this whole thing, one thing we can say about Gita, whether or not she actually did do away with her own husband, there is this person, this character within society that she idolizes. And she's called the Bandit Queen because, I don't remember her actual name, but there is a woman who at a very young age was married off, 11 years old, was married off to this 33-year-old. She was abused in many different ways. Then she went to prison because her brother was totally messing her over or something along those lines, or her neighbor, I can't remember who. And when she went to prison, she was abused in many different ways. She's had a really, really rough life, but she's known for her revenge seeking and not letting anybody treat her poorly. So Gita actually idolizes her and just wants to have that same level of strength and not let people walk all over her. And so she keeps pulling from these thoughts of the Bandit Queen when thinking about how she's going to help Farah to kill her husband. And that's basically where I'm at so far. That's what I got from the first 35 pages. So that's the premise of the story. I'm curious how other people are going to be pulled into this, because I imagine it's not just going to be about this one situation with her helping Farah kill her husband, that there may be other people within the story who seek her out for help. Whether or not she actually is a murderer to begin with, it doesn't matter at this point, I think. And maybe because she is so separated from society, she's like, well, what do I got to lose at this point? They already believe it of me anyways. So far, I'm enjoying the writing. The writing is nothing overly floral or flowery or anything like that. It's very straightforward, but it is painting enough of a picture that you really get to see what is happening within this community and some of the social dynamics. I think the story has a lot more to do with these different social dynamics, and I do enjoy that, like a community of people who are against somebody or against each other, but then they all come together under a similar purpose, and I'm kind of hoping for that from this book. It's funny because Solani was actually her childhood friend. They were best friends until she ended up hating her, and they ended up hating each other, and they cannot get along. And it'll be interesting if Solani becomes her enemy, in the sense that Solani is the one that could get them all in trouble, sort of thing. I'm just guessing that might be where it goes, but I have no idea. Or maybe their friendship will be fixed. Maybe they'll become good friends again, because they really did care about each other when they were young. Although Solani doesn't sound like she's a very nice person. So I don't know. I don't know for sure what's going to happen throughout this, but that's what I'm getting so far, and I am enjoying it. I'm intrigued, let's put it that way. I finished the sprints. They went really, really well. Actually got more reading than I expected to get done on the sprints. I currently have an hour and like 9 minutes left of Patina, so I'm doing pretty good with my audiobook. It's 1 o'clock right now, which means that I have 5 total hours, because I have until 5 p.m. and it's 1, that's 4 hours. And then after the live show is over, I'll have an hour, the hour that I used to edit the Suffer-a-thon video, which is currently uploading. So everything is done for that. It's uploading, and I feel good about that. So that means I only have 5 hours left. 1 hour is going to be used for this audiobook, which means I have 4 hours to read that. It's not going to happen. Oh no. So that's what I got done. Not a ton, because I'm not as focused during sprints. However, I did read, and I'm really starting to get into it. It's getting to be more entertaining. And not that it wasn't entertaining before, but like the dialogue is getting funny. Some of the situations that they're getting themselves into, you're just kind of like, what? Wait, what just happened? And it's taken a turn that I wasn't expecting from the synopsis. And so I'm really curious to see where it's going to go from here, because I was not expecting, well, I don't know if this is spoilery, so just beware, this could be spoilery. At this point, Gita has kind of like unintentionally linked up with Karem, who was the guy who was selling her husband alcohol all the time, and the other Faraz husband. He seems to be very happy to see her, interested in her well-being, and also how she feels about him, how she blames him for her husband's, well, abusing her because he was an alcoholic and was getting alcohol from Karem. And she has to go to the bigger city the next day, so he offers to help her get a ride, because he's gonna get a ride on the back of a truck, and he's like, hey, join me, I'll help you get a ride into town so you don't have to walk the whole way. And on the way, she ends up finding out more about him, that he doesn't actually drink himself, that a lot of this is for his own livelihood because he has 4 kids. His wife passed away. And the recipe for the alcohol is his own recipe. It's like rum. He's creating his own rum, bootleg rum. And he seems to have quite a conscience. So it's very interesting to see her then kidnap this dog, because they go to this place that he's dealing with, this business that he's dealing with. And I think that whole scenario was very interesting, because at first, you know, you're like, this seems super shady. And then when she sees that the guy has 4 dogs tied up in a horrible situation and they're taking advantage of these dogs, I think she expected that Karem was like negligent also in the people he dealt with, but she found out that he's not, and he didn't realize that this guy was was an awful person that he was dealing with, and that he was mistreating animals, using these poor dogs to test the alcohol that he had doctored. Because it's like Carême's alcohol is perfectly fine bootlegged rum. To make more money, this horrible guy is using methanol to stretch the alcohol and charge people for this methanol-laced alcohol, which is horrible. And so to make sure it's not poisonous to humans, he first feeds it to dogs. Despite the fact that this is a really awful situation, and if you think about all the implications of all these things, it's horrifying. It actually is a very comedic scene with her kidnapping the dog and running out of there, and them being two older people. They're not old, they're in their mid-30s, but being out of shape and not being runners, them trying to run away and being afraid that they're going to get caught. There's just these great comedic timing moments within this. And I didn't really expect this to be a comedy, or at least to be that funny. And I'm really starting to like the characters a lot. Gita has just kind of taken on a whole new perspective for me, which is cool. And I really am liking the addition of this Carême guy. But it's funny because it's kind of going a different direction than what I was expecting it to, you know, thinking about what the intention was at first and what the synopsis basically says. I am very curious to see where this story is going to go, because at the moment it's not going in a direction I thought it was going to go in, which isn't a bad thing. Not a bad thing at all. I'm really, really enjoying it. It's just like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing now. So how is this budding friendship between these two going to carry on this greater story of her helping other women kill their husbands, or at least helping Farah kill her husband? I have no clue. So we'll find out, and I am having fun, but I just don't know if that's going to happen in 4 hours. Oh goodness. I do know. I don't think I'm going to get it done, but I'm going to try. Okay, so I've got 20 minutes before the live show for Bookstar begins, and we get to talk about Shorefall. I have just now completed Patina by Jason Reynolds, the second book in the Track series, and it was so cute. And these characters are really enjoyable, just getting to hear them. They're very heartwarming stories, and you know, there's conflict in each and every one of these stories, so of course it's going to be heartrending as well. This one I didn't love quite as much as I loved the first one. Like the first one, Ghost, I gave 5 stars. This one I'd probably give 4 stars. Still was really good. I enjoyed the messaging. I feel like these books all have something that a young audience could pull from it, but also the entertainment factor of it. These characters are funny. They are interesting, and yeah, just a really good series so far. I'm really, really enjoying it. This one just didn't pull at my heartstrings quite as much as Ghost did. Like, Ghost was special, but I am very motivated to continue on with this series. So the next book is about Sunny, and then the final book is about Lou. And these are the 4 kids who are the new kids, the track team. So I'm glad we're going to get each and every one of their stories. Very interested in Sunny's story. So I'm looking forward to hearing from his perspective. Really enjoying this series by Jason Reynolds. Glad I'm finally picking up something by Jason Reynolds. That's where I am. And technically I have an hour and 20 minutes left for the 24-hour readathon. So can you imagine? That amount is probably not going to get read by then. I'm currently on page 116 of my 335 page book. So about a third of the way through. Making really good progress, in my opinion. However, not going to complete this 24-hour readathon in time. I'm not going to call it yet, but this is probably going to be my second attempt, my second warm-up to try and complete this 24-hour readathon for HRCYED. I will eventually get there. I promise. I will eventually get there.
That's all that matters. That's going to have to be the new slogan for Bookstar. United by our t-shirts, if not by our opinions.
I love that. Oh my gosh.
It is late in the evening. Well, not late. It's about 8:05. And I just got finished with, well, we had our live show. It was about an hour and a half. And then Paige and I chatted for a long time because we haven't caught up in a while. So we were chatting about life and everything in between. So now I'm finally ready to start my final hour. And look how much I have to read within my final hour. It's not going to happen. It's like 200 pages. But I finished 2 other books, and I made it a third way through this one. I didn't plan well again. Same with last time. I didn't plan well, and so the next time I do this 24-hour readathon, I need to make sure I plan nothing else, including sprints, because, come on, Amy, you know you're not going to actually sit and read the whole time during those sprints. And even though we did do some pretty decent sprints, it still was half that time. well, it was like 2 hours and 15 minutes that we sprinted in total. But that's an hour and 45 minutes that I didn't. And even when I'm sprinting, I don't get into the same kind of mode that I do when I'm just sitting and reading for an extended period. I was also really tired yesterday. I think I just chose an unlikely time to be able to complete a 24-hour readathon for me. I don't actually think my book choices were bad. I think that I made good book choices this time around. I just think I had to be a little more realistic about my capacity at the moment and how tired I was at the end of this week. I still have had a really good time though. So let me finish my final hour and I'll come back to you and I'll give you an update. And I'm actually going to finish out this book in this vlog. So even though I'm going to officially be done with my 24-hour readathon, I do want to continue talking about this book until I complete it. It's like perfect. I'm reading this for the Holly Festival of Lights prompt. And look, they even talk about a Holly party in this book. Okay, my 24-hour readathon has come to an end, and although I am almost halfway, I'm not quite halfway through this, so clearly I failed. But that's okay, because I didn't set myself up for success this time around, and I will do better next time. So yeah, I'm so excited to continue on with this book, though. It's so much fun, and I'm really loving the humor of this. The author is doing a great job of taking subject matter that is very difficult. It's rough. There's murder and there's a lot of abuse that happens within this story. There's a lot of really horrible situations that these women are in, and the situations that they're getting themselves caught up in are bad situations. And yet it feels like such a light read, which is surprising, but it's because of how well the humor is handled. The way she's handling these topics is not inappropriate. And so I just think it's just so well done. Like, I'm really loving how the author is putting this all together. And there are some very interesting twists, things that I didn't expect going into this, things I wouldn't have expected from this story. So I'm going to talk a little spoilery now. So there's the spoiler thing. I didn't expect this to be part romance. Like, I really didn't expect that. I didn't know that we would have a relationship at all for Gita. I guess in a wake of all the men that we get to know about have treated the women as less than, are abusive towards them, are taking advantage of situations, are just not even there for them, just like absent, not supportive. There's so many aspects of men brought up in this book within this community that is negative. It's so really fascinating to see one of the characters be so thoughtful and a great communicator and just someone who genuinely cares and isn't trying to gaslight our characters, isn't trying to cause problems, is actually trying to understand our main character, Gita. Like, it's so refreshing that he is such a likable character because of it. And so I'm hoping he stays that likable character. It would be so disappointing if he doesn't. And this other person, Solani, that I was talking about, who was Gita's best friend from childhood, there's a lot more to that story that we haven't fully gotten a part of. They certainly are still angry with each other for many reasons. But it's getting so wacky and wild because they have this whole new idea of how they're going to help her be safe from Farah, because Farah tried to kill her, Gita, our main character, because she didn't trust that she wouldn't tell or what have you about the murder of her husband. And the only way to protect her is to prove that her husband is still alive, Gita's husband, who she didn't kill, and the twins, which are the two other women from the loan group, one of them saw her husband and is using that information as blackmail to make Gita help her kill her husband. Otherwise, she won't give her the information she needs to prove herself innocent with the whole... So it's like, this situation's becoming more and more convoluted, and you're like, what the heck? And it's almost like a comedy of errors in the way it's being handled, and the way the murder situation is being handled. You're like, this is murder, y'all. And they're kind of like, oh well, And then it just, but like the humor about it, it could go really wrong. It could go really wrong, but it's just so good. Like, I have been laughing my head off with this book. That also could feel very, very silly, which they are feeling silly, but it's silly in a great way. I'm just in awe of how well the author is handling the subject matter while still making it fun and silly, while then going into these wild plot choices that you're like, that would just be goofy in another type of book. But with the way she's handling this, it's clever and funny and amusing, and yet you really care about the characters still, even so. Yeah, this is fun. This is a lot of fun. These characters are doing these things that you're like, you want to smack yourself in the forehead being like, what are you doing? But it just makes me laugh and laugh and laugh. It's so fun. And I don't want to put it down. Like, I had to do a lot of stuff today. It's Sunday. And I was editing my TBR and my cousins were visiting. So I was spending a lot of time with family. And then I'm just like, but I just want to read the book. And so just now I finally stopped editing my TBR. It's not done yet, but I'm like, no, I want to read before I go to bed. So I'm picking this up. And then there's this scene, and I'll put spoilers up here, where they're going over to Farah's house to get the fruit out of the backyard, and Solani's helping her, and Gita is trying to distract Farah, and Solani's in the backyard, and her scarf gets caught on the house, and then she is having all these like really ridiculous moments where she's basically tripping all over the backyard, and Gita's trying to distract her, and then the baby cries right at the moment that Solani like yelps or something happens, and then crows poop on Solani's head while she's out there trying to grab the fruit. Very like slapstick in a lot of ways, but it's so funny and it's just so cute, and I just keep laughing, and you're like, the whole time we're talking about murder. And Farah is blackmailing Gita, and yet it's just funny. Like, everything about it is funny. Well, there's a commercial. Okay, so I want to do a quick little update. I am pretty close. I'm getting close to the end of this, and I did pick it up for a little bit last night, but I didn't have a lot of time to give it. I think this story has gotten interesting in the way that there have been tonal shifts. Like, I feel like at certain times within this book, you get one vibe from the story, and then you get a different vibe from the story, and then now we've gotten a completely different vibe from the story. I don't say the pace slowed down, but the humor slowed down quite a bit in this last section, and I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, but it did get more serious than I was expecting it to, considering how goofy it got towards the middle. Going into a bit of spoilers, I mean, I knew that Ramesh had to come back, Gita's husband. I knew he had to come back, but it was really sad to see her lose all her power again. I mean, I guess it's not surprising because of the way she's behaved with like Solani and just different people in her life. And even though everybody thought she was this really scary, powerful murderer, her reality is that her morality has always been really high compared to other people in the town who are like, let's just kill my husband. She wants to accommodate everybody and everything, and she wants to believe the best in people. And that includes Ramesh. So even though he comes back and she is adamant she's not going to let him in her life, he slowly, through the manipulation that he's done all throughout their relationship and the gaslighting, because you can even see certain areas where he's trying to get her to behave in the way he trained her to in a lot of ways. She does not know how to let that go because she never let that go previously. Like, there's something to be said for getting out of a situation because you chose to get out of that situation versus getting out of a situation because your husband left you. And so that when he comes back, she never really learned how to manage her husband, like how to manage those emotions, how to overcome them so that she's the stronger person. And that was really just, it was so painful to see that happen here. And luckily, the relationship between her and Solani has strengthened again because that's helping her to see something here at the end, but she just inevitably wants to just believe the best and think that he really did change and blah, 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 blah. And yeah, that section was really just sad to read because it's so easy for people who think that they turned a leaf and they're a new person and that they won't ever let people treat them that way again, just go back to the way things were. And this is not for everybody's situation, but I think that can be how some people get in one abusive relationship after another, and it has a lot to do with not knowing how to get yourself out of that situation and not having the opportunities to do it yourself. Like, you know, those relationships end and you didn't get a chance to figure out how to find your strength in that situation. And I don't know, I'm just saying that is the experience you kind of get from this. You see that she really never got a chance to understand why she reacts and why she does things in her relationship with her husband, and maybe change how she approaches things. So it is really good. It's still so good. I'm still thinking 5 stars. I was kind of wondering like, well, since the pace has shifted, am I still enjoying it as much as I was? And I feel like it gives you sort of this journey of emotions throughout this, and it doesn't necessarily mean it changes the way I enjoy it. It just changes how serious the story has become and then the perspective that you're getting. So I am still really, really enjoying this. I would love to be able just to finish it because I want to see what happens at the end. But I'm trying to get my TBR video done, still working on that. And I also have to work, you know, I gotta do that thing called work and life and stuff. So I will give you a final update once I get to the end of this, and then we'll be able to determine what my actual rating is. Okay, so I want to talk about the Bandit Queens because I did finish it, and I don't know how I want to rate this because, like, for so many parts of this book, it was a 5-star read. But there were moments, and I did mention how the pacing did change at times, and although I didn't dislike the story or the book at those times, it did change my flow, and it changed how I was feeling that 5-star feel. And I think that's because there were certain scenes within this, especially later on in the book, that wanted to infuse a certain level of historical understanding of what is going on in India, or understanding of the differences within the caste system and the problematic elements of the caste system, the problematic aspects of being a woman in India. And these were really important messages that our main character started really thinking about. It didn't feel very well integrated to the rest of the story. And I think that that's where I got a little thrown off, where I thought those conversations were really important. I love learning about those kind of conversations, but in those moments, it felt sort of like a random insertion. Like, we're just inserting this information so I get these important ideas across. And I feel like in some scenes it was done really well. In other scenes, it just felt like, where are these ideas coming from with this character? She didn't really think about this stuff. She didn't really act upon this stuff before. And now all of a sudden she is hyper focused on these inequities that she doesn't quite understand. And it just didn't flow throughout the whole story. And I think if it had flown throughout the whole story, or at least there would have been more build up to those scenes, then I think that pacing might have been a little more smooth for me, and it would have been an absolute 5-star read. It's one of those books that I really loved though, and I think on a reread I'm gonna love it again. And I did love it more than a 4.5 stars. So I rarely give out a 4.75 stars because it's almost like, oh, just bump it up to 5-star. But I have to say that this didn't feel like a 5-star read all the way through, even though a lot of it did. So I'm gonna give it that elusive 4.75 stars because it's so close. The humor in this is phenomenal. It also borders on slapstick sometimes. It was almost like a pressure release valve. I laughed so much during this book, and we talk about some very, very serious topics in this story. And so I think that that was handled very well. I don't think that it ever got to a point where you're like, okay, that's disrespectful or inappropriate. It was just right there, working every single time. There were these humorous scenes where you're like, oh my gosh, that just seems like we should not be laughing about that. But the way it was done was more of like a release for that tension and the traumatic events that are happening with this in the story. You know, these women are facing really horrific things, and the sad reality of it is that they're trying to point out that they face these horrific realities every day. And so I think that that was very clever, and the parts that didn't quite work for me were few and far between, but they did slow my pacing down a little bit, enough that it's 4.75 stars, even though I really thought it was going to be a 5-star read. I love this book. I really think it is clever and fun and interesting and sad and tough, but also really heartfelt. And you end up really caring for characters that you didn't think you were going to care about at all to begin with. And I think that that was beautifully done. And I think that there are some examples of really positive characters in here that show that it's not all bleak. The whole situation is not completely bleak. And there are great character trajectories. There's some really dynamic characters in this, and I think that's important too, because there were certainly characters that I just wanted to smack. I really wanted to smack them. But even some of these characters that were like, ugh, what are you doing? Why are you such a jerk? Or why are you such an awful person? They were able to ultimately come together in this sort of like found family, found friendship dynamic. And I loved the found friendship you end with. And you never think at the beginning of this that you're going to get that at all. For sure. Not at all. So although I did not get a chance to finish this in time for my 24-hour readathon. I think I did really, really well for this 24-hour readathon. I was able to finish, well, okay, hold on. I was able to finish this little teeny tiny book, which doesn't seem like a huge accomplishment, but it's something. And my audiobook Patina by Jason Reynolds. And then I read half of this before my 24 hours was over. So, you know, I did like that. And my audiobook. I know that I can do this. I know that I can do this. I think I just need to make sure that in the future, my next attempt at a 24-hour readathon, where I read 3 books, one of them is over 300 pages, I really plan my time well so that I'm not doing other things where it takes an hour or 2 hours time away from me for reading. Also, you know, not at the end of a really long work week when I fell asleep at 10:20, I think it was, when I've been able to stay up to read till 2 or 3 in the morning, some mornings for certain books that I'm like, no, you need to be asleep, baby. You have to go to work tomorrow. And that was kind of disappointing that I just could not keep my eyes open. And that was really because I'd had such a long, busy work week. So I have learned some lessons, and I just keep learning lessons, and hopefully one of these days I will actually succeed at this 24-hour readathon for HRCYED. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe so you can see what happens the next time I attempt this. Hopefully 3rd time's a charm. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you later.